Hey, it's Andryanna. This is The Juggle is Real, and I'm really glad that you tuned in for this one because if you are just going through the motions right now, if you feel like you're doing everything you need to do, but somehow still feeling a little flat, you're functioning, but maybe not fully, you're tired, you might be exhausted, but you're still, of course, showing up. This episode is being recorded for you. We are in mid February. We're sort of past that hump of the Valentine's, and we're just over if you're in Canada, the long weekend where Family Day and a lot of fun stuff was happening. But I just don't think this time of year gets talked about enough because it's not like that January motivation, New Year stuff. It's not holiday chaos. It's not the spring optimism. We're just in this winter part, this quieter, heavier middle. And maybe you're not burnt out, but you're not fully in it either. And instead of asking what is wrong? What's wrong with me? Why can't I get it together? I just want to offer a different question because what if this isn't about energy? What if this is about your capacity? And so today I want to talk about why accumulation peaks around this time of year. And I want to talk about the difference between energy and capacity, what coping mode actually really looks like, and how resentment is often a signal for your capacity. And then I want to talk about how to raise your baseline, not looking at raising productivity. So this is, again, it's not about just take a break, not rest, not push harder. It's about operating differently. And so if that sounds good, let's dive right in. This is the Juggle is Real podcast. I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started. I want to start with why this feels different. And there is science behind how you might be feeling. There's seasonal mood patterns and things like seasonal affective disorder, different types of patterning really tends to peak in this mid to late February period. And it's not because something dramatic has happened, but it is because accumulation has happened. And before I get into the studies and the research that I found, I just want to give you this analogy because if you are in an area where you have been getting snow, a lot of conversations have been around how much snow we've been getting this year. And it's like, one snowfall, you manage it, you shovel, you get over it. The next snowfall happens, the next, and the next. And my husband actually just shoveled parts of our roof off because the accumulation was so great, and layer by layer, snowfall by snowfall, it was getting so heavy and so big that the exhaust for our fan, for our bathroom fan, it wasn't even venting because the vent that's there was totally covered because there was so much snow. So I just want to say, this isn't some flip a switch type of thing, but you might be feeling how you're feeling because things have quietly been accumulating. So Harvard Health Publishing has written about how this time in the winter often corresponds with increased stress sensitivity and mood variability. And that plus the cognitive load research shows that sustained mental demand reduces our working memory and our emotional flexibility over time. So, okay, we've got lots of snow, lots of accumulation. And so what you're feeling does make sense. You've been carrying a lot and things are getting heavier and heavier, right? 4 weeks since the start of the year, since who knows, even if nothing huge has happened, you've still been managing schedules, managing everyone's emotions, your work, different logistics, admin, expectations for yourself, for everyone around you, the expectations that maybe others have on you, and trying to manage yourself. And so this cognitive load theory tells us that when mental demand consistently exceeds our bandwidth, emotional regulation gets harder. Okay, I'll say that again. The cognitive load theory tells us that when our mental demands over time, over and over, they're exceeding our bandwidth, our capacity, time and time again, it's going to be a lot harder for us to be emotionally regulated. So things like simple decisions and overall decision making is going to feel heavier. Things that might not normally get us irritated or feeling a little snappy is going to feel bigger. So if you've noticed that you are quicker to snap or to react really quickly in a maybe not so positive way, maybe you're more mentally tired, like you're feeling just really drained, you're feeling that resentful tone bubbling up, maybe you're zoning out more and just kind of feeling out of it. I just want you to know it is not because you're weak or you're failing. This is the accumulation that's piling up. And so this is where we can make some changes. And this is where I want to talk about energy versus capacity, because they are two different things and they can help us in different ways. So energy, that's how you feel, but capacity is what you can carry without breaking down internally. So you can have low energy, but still have high capacity, right? Meaning you might be tired because Lord knows, you might have children who aren't sleeping the night, or you might have just the flu might have gone through your household, or, maybe you just have a lot on your plate right now. So your energy might be lower, but if your capacity is high, you can still carry through. You can also have high energy, but a lower capacity, meaning you might have the energy to be doing things, but you're feeling reactive and resentful and moody while you're doing it. So this time, this mid-February, end of February time can really expose our capacity, because when that capacity is exceeded, the bandwidth, we've gone over that, we don't fully collapse. We go into coping. And so what does that really look like? Well, I don't think anyone is overly dramatic when they're using these coping mechanisms. Coping looks like just saying it's fine, it's fine, I'll just do it, it's just going to be easier if I do it, or it's easier if I handle it, or I don't want to fight about this, I do not have the energy to explain myself. Coping looks like maybe you're scrolling a lot more instead of getting the sleep you need. Maybe it's just not even saying anything at all. Maybe you're not speaking up when you really want to be. Maybe it's doing more and just getting it done yourself instead of asking for help where you might need support. And maybe it's letting your standards slide because enforcing them and keeping a boundary, or even putting a boundary in place, it just feels daunting. It feels exhausting. Coping can keep you functioning, right? You're still going through the motions, you're still doing the things, but it keeps you in that resentment mode, and it quietly builds resentment. And resentment is one of the clearest signals that you have exceeded your capacity, right? You're starting to feel a little envious. Maybe things are bothering you and you're feeling that resentment bubble up. It's not just a personality trait, okay? This is data. This is clear signals telling you that you have to stop coping. And when you're in that mode, in order to stop coping, you need to start raising your baseline. And this is where we can shift, because most of us, especially women, we are often trying to raise our ceiling, right? We're trying to do more. We're trying to be better. We're trying to be more productive. We're trying to be more calm and more present and more patient. And that is ceiling work, right? Trying to do more and be more. And I'm not saying it's bad. And when you're setting goals, you might be raising your ceiling, but I would say that raising your baseline is different and maybe even more important, especially when we're looking at stopping the coping, because raising your baseline is about deciding what your minimum standard is, not what you achieve, but what you allow. So the baseline is how you allow people to speak to you. It is how you allow yourself to speak to yourself, right? It is what you are saying yes to time and time again, or what you're saying, not saying no to, right? What you tolerate, what you're just internalizing, and what you are silently carrying. So if your baseline, if your standards are low, you're coping. But as your baseline rises, you can decrease that resentment. You can move past the coping. And so your capacity can increase when the resentment decreases, when you move out of coping, when you are no longer abandoning and betraying yourself. You can have an increase in capacity. And this is real work, and this is pretty deep. But I do want to talk about how we raise our standards, how we raise our baseline, and maybe give some steps that are concrete, because this is some wishy-washy stuff, you know? I don't want to say you have to change 15 habits and overhaul your life, but maybe we can make some small shifts. So here's 3 ideas. Number 1, why don't we reduce like one of those silent resentments? So ask yourself, like, what is one thing that I keep tolerating right now that is draining me, quietly or loudly? Like, what is something that I am tolerating time and time again? So be honest with yourself. You know, is it being the default parent? Is it having to handle every single meal? Is it being the go-to person after hours for work messages? Is it maybe your partner not stepping in to support you? Is it children interrupting constantly or never having quiet time? I mean, it could be a lot of these things, but let's choose one for now. Because again, we don't have to overhaul everything, but can we raise one standard? So for example, can we just say, like, I need help with this. I need help with bath time. I just cannot keep doing it alone by myself. Or one task at work. Like, I cannot keep carrying this project solo. I need some support. Or, having a conversation to say, we need a new system for after school, for evenings, for mornings. Maybe it is putting an email response saying that you're not responding to messages after 7 p.m. and that you'd be so happy to resume the conversation during business hours, or having that conversation with someone that you work with. For me, I was just realizing, like, somehow we've gotten a little bit farther away from getting help after meals. So I was starting to feel a little bit resentful. So, I'm the one who is making the meals. I'm the one who's buying the groceries. I'm the one who's putting everything together, making the plates, getting everyone to the table. We're sitting at the table, everyone's eating, and then everyone just leaves and goes their various ways. Sometimes plates aren't even cleared off the table. They're just left there. And then everyone goes back to whatever they were doing, watching shows, outside playing, and I'm back in the kitchen, and then I have this huge mess to clean. So it's about being like, okay, so everyone clears their own plates and dishes go in the dishwasher. Like, I need some help here, Not saying it's going to feel comfortable, not saying it's going to feel natural, but that is okay, because raising your baseline often feels like discomfort, but then it's going to feel like relief. And our capacity can grow when our resentment shrinks. So the second thing that we can do is build in a recovery ritual. And I'm talking about 10 minutes max here, okay? I'm not talking about spa days. So if you are at the end of your rope, recover does not look like, a 3-hour meditation. It looks like interrupting whatever that pattern is. And so there is stress, physiological research, and it includes Bruce McEwen's work on the allostatic load. It shows that resilience is about how quickly we can return to our baseline, not how little stress we experience, right? So I think it's unfair to say, well, just take out all the stressors in your life, because A, it's impossible, and B, not all stress is bad. Like, stress is good because it can motivate us to do things, and it can get us out of our, what we're doing to move forward. But we cannot experience too much stress, and stress that is not helpful. So how can we return to our baseline, right? to increase our capacity to maintain whatever it is that we're carrying. So the recovery is like, okay, can you close the bathroom door and take some deep breaths by yourself in peace? Can you sit in the car for 5 extra minutes before you come into the house after work, before the day begins? Can you take a hot shower, do something without your phone, a walk around the block, put your earbuds in, blast some music, have a step outside, or do it while you're doing these tasks. Or maybe you're just literally laying flat on the floor or in your bed and taking some slow breaths. There is a 90-second rule in neuroscience that suggests emotional chemicals move through the body quickly if we stop fueling that thought loop. So recovery is interrupting the spiral. It's not solving everything, but it is that interruption. So if you can shorten the spiral, you can increase the capacity. And then the third thing that I did want to share is, like, when we're talking about increasing our capacity and increasing our baseline, it's just raising that minimum standard for yourself. And a lot of things we can't control, but we can control ourselves, right? I'm not talking about your output. I'm not talking about your productivity. I'm talking about how you are caring for yourself, how you are respecting yourself, how you are trusting yourself and showing up for yourself. So instead of, like, I suck, I need to be more productive, I need to do more, why don't you try putting some little rules in place with yourself and raising your standards to, like, well, I'm not speaking harshly to myself anymore. I only speak to myself with kind words. Or instead of the procrastination loops of I will deal with this later, it's going to be I, as a person, address tension sooner, right? So just knowing with yourself, like, I address it. I'm not someone who procrastinates, and letting yourself know I address this tension and actually moving forward with it. So instead of I'm just tired, it's I actually sleep before I scroll. And these are baseline decisions. This is not glamorous stuff. This is raising your standards to create an identity for yourself for who you actually want to be and who you're stepping into. And this is really, really powerful stuff. So the other thing that I do want to talk about is managing some of this friction intentionally, because oftentimes we have so much on our plate, there's so much happening. We tend to want to automate everything, take everything off our plate, simplify everything. And I am all about that because, the less that we have to manage, the easier things can be. But friction isn't always the enemy, but the misplaced friction can be. So of course we want to remove friction from logistics. We want to automate the things that are draining you. If it's going to take you an extra half hour every week to pay the bills, well, can we automate some of that stuff and set up automatic payments, or, just automating the things that are draining you? But what is important is that we are keeping the friction where it's going to deepen us, so we can keep friction in having sometimes hard conversations, coming together to communicate, to have those discussions. Keep friction in our parenting, parenting with more presence, and places that we can grow in our relationships, in our creative work, in things that are actually supporting us in the long run. Because friction in admin can exhaust you, but friction in relationships can really build you and support you. So I would just like to put that little bird, the little bug in your ear, to choose wisely when it comes to removing the friction from your plate. So when we're talking about looking to coping and moving into something that has more capacity, if you're just getting by, if you're feeling resentful, if you're just managing, feeling flat, I would like for you to feel more clear, steadier, less reactive, more aligned and less bitter, and more self-respecting. So how do we do this? How do we, move from that point into how you want to be feeling? It is by raising your baseline. It's by interrupting those spirals, reducing those silent resentments to increase friction where it matters, and choosing your standards. So as we close out, let me leave you with just a few more words. If it's feeling heavy right now at this point in February, I don't think it's because you're behind. I don't think it's because you're failing. I think it's because this accumulation is real and things have really piled up, just like the snow this winter. And so instead of coping your way through the rest of the winter, you can choose to raise your baseline. You can operate from a more stable place and reduce your resentment. And in doing that, you're going to build your capacity quietly. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, but it is firm and loving and kind. So I want to thank you so much for being here. And if this resonated, if there's a message here that you think someone else could really, really be supported by, I think it would be so helpful if you could share it with someone who might need this shift right now. Make sure you're following along, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss next week's conversation, which is an absolutely incredible conversation that I have with Dr. Tracy Dalgleish about the relationship you have with your partner and your mother-in-law. But for now, let me leave you with, you don't need more energy. You just need to hold yourself to a higher standard, and you are allowed to set your baseline and your standards. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week. And until then, take good care.